Alright, today we're doing a tier list maker, obviously. The schedule, for uploading is going to be a bit different than normal, or at least the plan. So, ignore the copyrighted music. Today's Saturday, or when the video goes up it'll be Saturday. So, it's going to be a tier list for Far Cry. Wednesday's video, which I'm almost certain is the day the Far Cry 6 comes out. I'm probably doing a Far Cry Primal video, like a is it as bad as you remember type video, unless I don't understand the release time and I have time to play it and get first impressions out on Wednesday. I doubt it. It'll probably be Thursday, if not Friday, when I get first impressions out, and then if I somehow manage to speedrun the game, the review will be out Saturday, but I doubt it. It'll probably be the week after the game comes out that the review will be out. But that being said, let's get into the tier list. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give it a 2 right now, because the first one I've literally never seen, I've never played, I don't know what it is, I've never heard a single thing about it, so it's going on my question mark. Alright, doesn't count. Far Cry 2, I can't really put it on here because I've played it, but like more recently than any of these other games on the list. And like it's like an original Xbox game, like it looks bad, it plays really weird, there's a lot of loading screens, so it's been a very, very long time since this game is released and when I played it, so I don't think it's fair to rate this. If I had to, going on the fact that it is super old, I'd probably put it like here or here, but again, like it's fine, but it's old, so I'm just gonna put it down here. Now we get into the games that I've played all the way through, completed. Far Cry 3 is the only one I didn't play on launch, but the rest of these are all played on launch. So, and I played them in order too, so that also helps. So, where to start? What's an easy one to start with? Let's start with one that's gonna piss people off. This is Blood Dragon. It doesn't say Blood Dragon on it, but that's Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. Putting it a B because it's good, alright? And keep in mind, this is a Far Cry list. This isn't a game list, right? You could put a lot of games at B, and Far Cry Blood Dragon would be far above them. This is a Far Cry list. If I had to rate this A, this would be like 10, 9 scale. This is going to be like 8, 7, 6. A might even be 8s. This will be 5, right? This is 4 and 3, and this is 2 and 1. So just like a 1 out of 10 scale, if that's how you want to look at it, because that makes it easier for me in my head. So, but Far Cry Blood Dragon's good, looks good, plays good, just more Far Cry 3, which was completely different when it came out. It's an Xbox 360 game. It looks good. All the executions, it's violent, it's got freaking dragons in it, it's all futuristic cyberpunk, but if cyberpunk was good. Really, the only bad thing about this game is that it's short, right? And it's a DLC, it's not technically a full game, but it's short, and that's literally the only reason, other than there is a game that's better than it on this list, right? If another game on this list didn't exist, this would be A. And if this game was, double the length, it would be A, easily. But, again, it's probably an 8. It's really good. But this is when these games released, right? If you go back and play, like I was talking about with Far Cry 2, right? Or even Far Cry 3, they feel clunky, the open world is boring, there's not a lot to do, it's ugly. That's because these games are old. I'm talking about when they released, when I played them. I'm not talking about now, right? If I tell you that it plays smooth and it had, innovative gameplay, stuff like that, that doesn't apply now. Obviously, Far Cry 3 doesn't have innovative gameplay now, right? The map is super small, but you understand what I'm trying to say, alright? So that's Blood Dragon at B. If I had to give it a number, I'd put that at like an 8. I don't think I've reviewed any of these games. Did I review New Dawn? I don't think I reviewed New Dawn, or 5. I don't know. Maybe I could do that for whatever. Alright. What do I want to do next? I want to make it interesting, because I don't want to touch this, and I don't want to touch this, because I think those are the obvious ones. So let's do Far Cry 4. I don't know, honestly. This is the one I'm most iffy about, right? Because this is the first one that I played knowing what it was, right? What I mean by that is, like, what's your first Call of Duty game, right? Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 2, whatever it is, right? You probably picked it up because you thought it looked cool, saw the trailer, heard about it, one of your friends asked you to get it, right? And then the next one is, you know, you were super invested in. That's me for Far Cry 4. I played Far Cry 3, right? And I was like, oh, this is really cool, because everyone told me to play it. And then I actually got Far Cry 4 on launch knowing what it was. So Far Cry 4 was the first one I was excited for. And so where would I put it? It's really good and really bad at the same time, because I'm really split on this game. I'm 99% sure. Yeah, it's an Xbox One game, right? Like an early Xbox One game. Far Cry 4. Yeah, okay. That's Xbox One. That's 1 year into the Xbox One, I think. So it's early Xbox One. It looks really good even now. I mean, it doesn't look like great now, but it's still playable visually. The gameplay particularly is what's really good about this game, right? Because Far Cry 3 kind of took that open world, did its thing, and I don't want to talk about Ubisoft here for too long, but they do their thing with their open worlds. They're always just top tier, right? Unless other than the freaking bell tower missions, but aside from that, we're good, right? And so Far Cry 4, the open world is really good, the vehicles are really good, just there's like different regions on the map. They added, like, the hunting is significantly better, just the gun design, like everything from Far Cry 4 is better, right? Because essentially Far Cry 1 and 2 are kind of their own thing, right? And then Far Cry 3 comes in, adds like outposts and develops the hunting more, and like, because it's on Xbox 360 now, not the original Xbox, it can do more. And then Far Cry 4, the new console, just takes that, steps it up. Now the story, that's where I get iffy, right? It's okay. Pagan Man, I think is his name. He's an okay villain. Like, he's not Voss, but he's fine. He does what he needs to do. But the map location's good, but overall, I don't know if it's better than Blood Dragon, because Blood Dragon's good, right? And but it's short. This is a relatively long game if you do everything. The DLCs for this are really good. I'm pretty sure this is the one where there's choices and you can choose to, like, help certain people, and if you get different endings and stuff depending on what choices you make. I'm pretty sure it's Far Cry 4. No, it's better. Far Cry 4 is better than Blood Dragon, but that's just my opinion. Probably gonna piss a lot of people off. I just think it plays better than Far Cry 3 just because it's newer, right? It looks really good. The story's a bit weaker, right? That's the weakest point of the game. DLCs are really good. The hunting's great. It's probably my favorite part of this game. You have choices in the story. Far Cry 4 is B tier. So, you know, this is going to be a lot shorter than typically, because what have I done this before with? I don't know if I've done it with a game or I do it with the MCU. Yeah, I haven't done this with games yet. I should do this with Call of Duty. That was like a 4-hour video. But, what do I want to do next? You know what? Let's do Primal. So, Wednesday's video is going to be, is Primal as bad as you remember? Because everyone hates Primal, right? And without getting too much into a rant, summarizing what Wednesday's video will probably say in 15 and 20 minutes, is what I'm assuming the length is going to be. The problem with Primal is that it's not Far Cry, right? It's like what people say the problems with modern Assassin's Creed. It takes all of the things that make Far Cry fun and just takes them away. What are your favorite things from, like, Far Cry 4, Far Cry 3? It's the parts where it's just like over the top villains, just like just spitting crazy lines, right? That's the first one. And then just stupid set pieces, right? When you're like burning the weed farms with the flamethrower in Far Cry 4, or like the opening to Far Cry 4, like you're on like a tower with an AK and like sneaking through a village. That part's really good. Just like those big action set pieces with crazy guns and 500 enemies coming at you, and explosions and all of that stuff. Far Cry Primal can't have that because you have a spear, a club, and a bow and arrow. That's, takes away one of those two parts that make Far Cry good. And then the second part, which is the villain and the story, it's all subtitles in Far Cry Primal, right? Unless I was just stupid when I played this, I haven't gone back to replaying it yet, but unless I was just an idiot, they don't speak English, and you just have to read subtitles, which is fine. It gets the point across. I can understand what's happening, but you don't get the performance, right? That works for like Xbox 360 or the Xbox games where it's all just digital, just someone reading off a piece of paper, and it's not all mocapped, right? Well, it's all motion captured and real performances for the characters, and they're not speaking English. You miss out on all of that, right? So it sounds like I'm gonna give this F tier, but it actually does some interesting things that I don't want to spoil. So watch my video on Wednesday to understand why I'm not giving this F tier. Alright, I'm putting it in D. It is not good. It is the worst Far Cry game. Right? It's not even really a Far Cry game. But it does do some things right. And like people argue with Assassin's Creed, the most recent 3, if you took out all of the Far Cry stuff from this game, right? If this was just called Primal, right? And it had nothing to do with Far Cry, and take out like the super bright colors and the stupid enemies and like the fake stealth gameplay and all of that stuff, this could be really good, like a prehistoric survival game. But that's not there. I'll talk more about that on Wednesday. We'll get to it. So that's 3 over 5 done. Got 3 more. And so I have no clue I'm going to put Far Cry 5, so I don't want to go to that yet. What I do want to talk about is some Far Cry 3. Alright, let's just get this over with. Like, this will probably be on the thumbnail, because everybody knows that Far Cry 3 is going up top, because it's the best one. Alright, Far Cry 3 is so good that literally the game came out, that's gotta be 10 years by now, right? And everyone's still quoting it, and talking about it, and comparing everyone to Boss. It's been almost 10 years, right? So, the villain is great. The writing, all that stuff is great. One thing I want to talk about when talking about the story and all of that stuff while getting prepared for Far Cry 6, the main character sucks. Like, the protagonist in Far Cry, I can't tell you the main character's name in any of these games. That's not true. I can in Far Cry 5 because you're not a character, you're just like you. But you get my point. They're never good. So that is one disadvantage that Far Cry has. Alright. And so Far Cry 3 is great. The best thing it does is its outpost system, where now, like I said, 9 years later, that's so overdone. I mean, Wildlands is the best example of someone who's done it good recently, but that's so overdone, just like going around defeating outposts and claiming. I mean, literally every game does it. Back then, it was new. The hunting here is decent. It's nothing compared to how hunting works now in a lot of games, but for back then, it worked well. You could kill things and crafting. All your animations for healing yourself up and biting bullets out of you and wrapping your arms up and stabbing twigs in yourself to heal up. And isn't there like a tattoo skill tree where like your tattoo gets bigger as you go through the skill tree, and there's choices in this game too, I'm 99% sure. I haven't played Far Cry 3 in a long time, but this one, I mean, even the gameplay, well, it's definitely the weakest part of the game. It's still great, it works well for when it was released, but A tier. It's not S tier because I don't have an S on this list because I don't think Far Cry games are that great. They're good, but they're not the greatest thing ever. They don't have an S on their list. All right, but it's the best of the Far Cry games. All right, so Far Cry 5 and Far Cry New Dawn. So these are what I would consider like modern games. All right, Far Cry Primal, because this is an Xbox 360 game. These are Xbox One games. Far Cry 2 might be an Xbox 360 game. I don't know, because Xbox 360 was around for a long time. Blood Dragon's a 360 game. Far Cry 4 is an Xbox One game. This is an Xbox One game. And so, the problem with... And I use Xbox One versus PlayStation just because that's what I played. And I know the year on releases, and it makes things easier for me. But they come out the same year. So, Far Cry Primal, well, it's not that old. It still feels like an old game just based off of like how the game is made and how it's structured and all of that stuff. Far Cry 5 and New Dawn is very much if you wanted to show somebody what a game is, how games work now. Here, this is what games are now. You have a main story, you have side missions, you have an open world with areas to explore that'll, progress you more and make you more OP for the main side missions and unlock customization. Right? That's essentially how these games work and how most open world games work now anyways. So New Dawn and Far Cry 5. So I think I have to do Far Cry 5 first. And I can't decide because I've played Far Cry 5 all the way through twice. And I've played it at least 5 times. This is no, I don't know, I might have played Far Cry 4 more. But it's definitely up there for the amount of times I've played it. It works really well. The biggest thing here, obviously, other than the fact that it looks really good, is just the open world works well. My favorite part of this game are like the bunkers where there's like magazines for skill upgrades and you have to like do a little puzzle to figure out how to get into the bunkers, and there's like some that have like beehives that'll kill you and you have to like some that are underwater and all that good stuff. But it's Far Cry, so I mean it's a bit stupid. There's like side missions with aliens, and we'll get into the DLCs here in a minute. But overall, it works well, and I think it's the best version of their gameplay. Like, the gameplay works really well here, because before 5, it was Primal, right? So you have like an early Xbox One game, and then Primal, which doesn't use like cars or explosives or guns or any of that stuff, and you have Far Cry 5. So this is at least a semi-modern, first-person shooter, if that's what you want to call Far Cry. And so I think Far Cry 5, the story is pretty good, depending on what ending you choose, right? It gives you the freedom to go in any particular order you want to fight the 3 bosses, but I think there is a right order, in my opinion, of the way to do it. Just it makes more sense to me, but that's what it is. The final choice, I think, drastically changes how you like the game. Alright, so spoiler alert, if you haven't played Far Cry 5, there's 2 endings, right? There's the one where freaking you like get in the car and drive away and they play the song and you like get hypnotized or whatever. That one sucks. And there's the one with like the whole world blows up. That one, which I guess is the lower ending because of Far Cry New Dawn, that one's like S tier. That is a very good ending. Like, that's probably one of the better endings in like a lot of games, not just Far Cry. And so that combined, the vehicles here are fine, like they don't do anything for the game really, but the gun customization is really good. They have a lot of guns, especially with the DLCs now. Like, they added the Vector recently, and I like replayed the game just to use the Vector, and so it works really well. I think that Far Cry 5 probably is up here in B. It's just, is it better than 4? Right? I think the story is, it's better than 4. because the story is better than 4, the gameplay is better than 4, the world's better than 4, and 2 of those things, the world and the gameplay, just has to do with the time the games were released. And I also think Far Cry 5 is interesting thematically with like recent events and shit, but that's a whole nother video. But also they have fishing in Far Cry 5, so let me just make an S tier real quick, and that's where that'll go. But fishing's good. It's probably my favorite fishing. I fish a lot in this game. But let me talk about the DLCs for Far Cry 5 real quick before I get into New Dawn. So DLCs, there's 3 of them. They released, the first one is the Vietnam DLC, and that's by far the best one. There's like POWs, and you have to like go rescue them, and you can call in like airstrikes or something, and the final mission is like this POW camp on top of a freaking hill, and I feel like at some point you get in a helicopter with a minigun, and there's like freaking bombs, and it's like Black Ops 1, maybe I'm thinking about Black Ops 1, I don't know, it's been a while, and freaking, and then freaking all the bombs are dropping, you're like defending this base. It's an S tier DLC, alright, and they were cheap DLCs. The next one is the Alien DLC. That one sucks. Like, you know the guy in Far Cry, I think he was introduced in Far Cry 3, not certain. Like, the American dude who's like really just like cringe, and all of his jokes aren't funny, but he typically has one mission line, one side quest line in each game, so he's not that obnoxious. This DLC is entirely focused around him, right? So that's awful. He's obnoxious, he's stupid, I'm pretty sure he's like a floating head or something. I don't really remember. All of the guns from this DLC aren't great because they're alien guns, and like they lock onto people and like shoot explosive balls and like beam rifles and stuff. That DLC is not that great. Alright, and then the last one is the zombie DLC. That one's pretty good. I want to say it added like the Spaz 12 and something else. I don't remember what other guns it added, but the DLC itself, I want to say, is the shortest DLC. But that DLC added a lot to custom maps, and that's something that we haven't talked about really. These other games had custom maps. I think Far Cry 4 has them. I don't know if Far Cry 3 has them. Far Cry 3 has multiplayer, but I feel like it's not significant enough to mention. But Far Cry 5's custom maps are like the player-made maps with like puzzle maps and like wave defense stuff. That all works really well. They're not bringing it back in Far Cry 6, but it works well. And as you can tell, I'm losing my voice because I've been here for almost 30 minutes. And so, Far Cry 5, I think, is B. I'm debating putting it here, right? But for right now, we're going to leave it at B. Now, I feel like we talked a lot about Far Cry 5. We have a lot to talk about with New Dawn. Okay? So I'm just going to leave it right here for now. So, Far Cry New Dawn, if you don't know, if you haven't played it, it's a sequel to Far Cry 5, kind of. Right, it's after the nukes go off and like years later, and like radiation messed everything up, and there's like freaking flowers growing out of people and stuff. It's like the apocalypse basically. And so the negatives, right? I'm 99% sure there's microtransactions in this game, so that's negative. All right, I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure there's microtransactions in it. The other thing, it's the same map as Far Cry 5, so that's kind of boring. Like the whole thing with Far Cry 2 is in Africa, 3 is on like some island, 4 is in like some like the mountains somewhere, and then 5's in I don't remember, like Kansas or something. It's been a while since I've played any of these games, and so New Dawn, that's gonna really bother me. I don't know where Far Cry 5 takes place, but that's fine. And so the other thing that New Dawn changes is it takes everything about Far Cry and just changes it completely. Right? Instead of it being like an action FPS stealth shooter, it makes it like a looter shooter, like Destiny. right? It's like people got health bars, numbers come off of them. You have like different weapon variants, like colors and rarities to your weapons. While this all sounds awful, it's really good. It works really well because the best part about Far Cry is the outposts, right? And at this point, it's getting old, and we'll talk about that when we talk about Far Cry 6. But the whole outpost thing is getting kind of boring. And so, what they did here is you do it once on a certain difficulty, and then you do it again on the next difficulty, and again on the next difficulty, and so on, for each outpost. And then you get different rarity weapons and all of that stuff. So that was something interesting to do, along with the story, which is fine. It's not great. It's not awful, right? It's like these two black sisters or something, and they want to take over the wasteland or something. I don't know. I don't remember clearly. That means it's not very good. That's that. There's also like a settlement builder that you upgrade your settlement to get better weapons and all that stuff and perks. But really, the only other interesting thing that it does is it has like rare outposts, I guess that's what you want to call them. So there's your typical like open world, just cluster of buildings in the woods. That's in every game ever and in every Far Cry. And then it has these like fast travel rare outposts that you can go to, right? I only remember 2 of them. And they give you like better gear, and they're just unique missions that you unlock. So one of them was an aircraft carrier, and the other one was like a Grand Canyon looking place. That's all I really remember, but I remember those being really fun, and it was just basically a huge outpost in a unique location. So that changes things up a bit. This is where the weapons get kind of crazy. Like Far Cry has always been a bit crazy. For the most part, it's realistic. Far Cry 4 and 5, you get into like shovel launchers and stuff, and alien guns with the DLCs. But New Dawn has like a chainsaw launcher, and I'm pretty sure it has like some grenade launcher that shoots something stupid. That's where it gets crazy, and where Far Cry 6 gets all of that from. So I haven't decided where I'm putting this on my list, and that's why I'm stalling and it's still sitting here in the question mark. And so it's definitely significantly better than Primal, right? It's at least C, right? What is it B? And I don't know, because the story's fine. The only things I remember about the story at all is that some kid like pisses himself because they give him a grenade, and then you like go to their race or something, and like go to their special dinner because you win the race and like kill somebody. And then I remember like a Fight Club thing, and that's pretty much all I remember story wise, right? The gameplay, it's different, right? I mean, once you hit Far Cry 3, Blood Dragon 4, 5, not Primal, but all those games relatively play the same. Far Cry 6 is going to play the same, and that's fine. I mean, it is what it is. It's like Call of Duty, essentially. But New Dawn changes it up a bit, and if you don't like looter shooters and guys with health bars and bullet sponges, obviously you're not going to like New Dawn, right? You're going to probably put it like down here. But personally, for me, I don't have a problem with that. I actually like that. I think it changes it up a bit. The only problem I had with this game, my biggest problem I should say, is that it's the same map and it released so quickly after Far Cry 5. Because Far Cry typically releases in the beginning of the year, like February through April. And I want to say Far Cry 5 released in like March or April of whatever year it came out, and then New Dawn came out in like February of the next year, so it wasn't even a full year, right? So I think Far Cry Dawn is fine at C, but that's because I played it co-op, right? If you don't play this co-op, I can see it being D. But I think it's fine at C. It's not great. The story is not memorable. The gameplay is something different and interesting, but that's about it, right? But that's just my opinion. This is my tier list. I'm sure everyone else's tier list would have like this up here. This is probably lower. This is probably lower. This is probably definitely lower. But that's just me. We'll add Far Cry. Shit. We'll add Far Cry 6 to this whenever it comes out. Right now, if I had to guess where it was gonna go, I'm probably gonna put it here, right? Because I don't care about it at all, right? Because the gameplay, it just looks like Far Cry. Visually, the game doesn't look that good. So that's already 2 out of the 3 check marks that you got. So if the story is 10 out of 10, best it can do is like C or B. But that's just me. It could be the greatest game ever. What do I know? It ain't out yet. But Wednesday, we'll do a Far Cry Primal video. And then the day or after that, or the day after that, Thursday, Friday, we'll do a first impressions for Far Cry 6. You guys let me know which one of these games is your favorite. Which one do you hate? Make your tier list and send it to me. Tell me what you think about Far Cry 6 before launch. And I'll see you guys on the next one.